Group projects. That thing that teachers force kids to do for some reason, even though they damn well know that there's always gonna be that one kid who's gonna do 95% of the actual work, but only get 25% of the credit. And then the teachers are gonna expect said kid to not resent their peers as they grow older, and are forced to realize the sad fact of life that 80% of people are selfish, idiotic, useless cunts that won't lift a pinky finger unless an adult tells them to, and has to threaten them with detention if they don't. The perfect way to permanently destroy a child's faith in humanity, in my eyes. Don't you agree? And the worst part about it is that you would think that as time goes by, you would slowly get more and more desensitized to such butthole behavior. And you do, absolutely. But then, there's that one project. That one project where you actually want to do well. Not just for the sake of a grade, but because you actually care about the subject and want to prove to people, especially the teacher, just exactly what you're capable of. And luckily for me, I had one of those projects in college. It was a media class project where we had to create a 4 to 6 minute long short film designed to illustrate everything we had learned in class about shot composition and filmmaking during the year, which the teacher gave us 100% creative control over. It was my absolute dream project. I had never in my life been so excited to get started on homework. Because, funnily enough, I had actually dabbled a little bit in filmmaking before getting this project assigned. Even creating a 5-minute long presentation cartoon of my plans for college the year before, back when I was still in high school, that I drew on my iPad with my finger, and then edited on my laptop during class. Which I got a big fat A on, son! Which I was oh so happy about, in a way I can't really describe. That kind of external validation can be incredibly intoxicating at that age. And since then, I had gone out of my way and bought my very first Wacom graphics tablet all by myself, which I would draw on whenever I wasn't doing homework. And it was a Wacom Cintiq 13 HD interactive pen display, to be precise, which, funny enough, was the exact same model my uncle had. Because the second he allowed me to try his tablet for the first time, and experience the true magic of creating digital art for the first time, I knew in my heart that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I had always liked drawing, and had started looking into animation software and different kinds of animation techniques before then. But that was the first taste of something that I didn't know I would be chasing for the rest of my life. So, needless to say, I was extremely excited to get started on this short film. But as you can guess by the title of this video, that excitement quickly died down. Because then the teacher mentioned that it was a group project. And I was a little bit more apprehensive, to say the least. But I decided to keep a level head about the whole thing, and at least try to have a positive mindset. I mean, my therapist did tell me that I should stop always assuming the worst of people and try to stay positive during tough times. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? Hey, Becky, can you cancel our appointment next Tuesday? Why? 'Cause you're a filthy liar. That's why. See you in hell, you filthy lying bitch. And because I have oh such amazing luck, and God is just oh so eager to bless me with whatever crazy shit he found in Kitty Jesus' litter box, I just so happened to get placed in a group with 3 other people. 2 girls and 1 boy. Okay, let me just find 3 random useless annoying characters to substitute with my classmates, and there you go. And these guys could not have given less of a radioactive pigeon shit about anything revolving around this project. And honestly, appeared to be the kind of people who only got assigned to media class because everything else was booked. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Just means I have to do the project by myself then. No big deal. I'm sure they wouldn't mind me taking over and just do the project for them outright. I mean, it's less homework for them to do, am I right? But to my surprise, the girls told me they really wanted to work on the project too. Oh! I did not expect that. Huh. Interesting. Okay, sounds fun. Let's get started then. Okay, so got any ideas for what kind of film we should make? And almost as if all three of them were possessed by the devil, they all unanimously said,
"Let's do a horror film!"
And I could immediately feel my heart fall straight into my ass. You see, from around the age of 13 to 18, I had developed an intense, and honestly quite creepy fascination with horror movies. And because my uncle is such a massive Giga Chad, he let me borrow all of the movies that he had collected on his shelf throughout the years. And he had all of the classics. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Halloween movies, the Alien movies, The Exorcist, Night of the Living Dead, The Grudge, The Shining, the entire Saw franchise. And eventually, I managed to find some more classics that I ended up adding to my own collection of movies, like The Ring, the Child's Play franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc. And I even started reading Stephen King books, just because I wanted that extra edge on my pathetic little depressed emo girl resume, you know? So immediately I knew we fucked up. Because you see, horror is one of the hardest genres to do correctly. It's really hard to do something genuinely scary, especially when you don't have the budget, camera equipment, experience, or just raw talent to be able to pull it off. And if something is clearly supposed to be scary but isn't, there's only two ways that can go. Either it's so absurdly not scary that it loops all the way around to be just funny. A few examples of this would be Night of the Living Dead, Rubber, etc. Or the movie leaves absolutely no impact at all, becoming a boring, predictable mess that you can't even laugh at. Examples would be... I don't even know, because I tend to forget movies like that entirely to make room in my brain for good stuff that I actually want to remember. So, as my attempt to prevent this inevitable train wreck that I could see coming from a mile away, I took the biggest calm yourself down breath that I could, and calmly but firmly suggested that we should make a comedy short instead. Because I knew that all we had to record with was cheaply bought handheld camcorders provided by the school, and that the audio on those things would be an absolute nightmare to work with. And I thought that if we made a Charlie Chaplin-inspired comedy short instead, we wouldn't need to worry about any of that at all. But I was quickly shut down, and like the true geniuses that they were, they justified their decision by saying,
"But that's what everyone else is doing, so we should too."
And I was forced to comply with this stupid idea, against every ounce of common sense that I happened to possess at the time. Which, admittedly, wasn't much, by the way. And I basically just told myself, okay, looks like no one cares about what I think. So for the sake of what little remains of my fragile sanity, I'm gonna completely emotionally dissociate from this entire planning process. If these guys are so hell-bent on making a bad horror film, then I'm just gonna have to let them. It's not like there's anything I can do to change their minds anyway. Maybe I should just focus on the camera work and editing. That way, even if the script just so happened to be bad, at least the film will be visually pleasing. Let's just focus on that, and then the film can't be all that bad, right? After that, we had to make the storyboard. And because I was the only one who knew how to draw a stick figure for some reason, I had to draw the whole storyboard by myself, while the three rocket scientists next to me gave me instructions on how the whole film should play out. And that's when the story slowly started to come into play. The two girls actually were the one who came up with the story. It was about two college girls who accepted a dare from a fellow classmate. That involves the two of them camping in the woods, where a serial killer just so happened to be for some reason. And I was a little too busy drawing the entire storyboard that we needed to submit to the teacher before the end of class, all by myself, might I add, to actually sit back and think about the real-life logistics of what they just said. Basically, these 3 baby Einsteins wanted us to make a short film where all 4 of us would have to record scenes out in the middle of a forest, in the middle of the night, during winter. And none of them thought that that might be a stupid and impractical idea. And it wasn't until class was over, and I finally got some time to sit and think about what just happened, that I basically went, ah, fuck, what did I get myself into? The only thing that I was actually able to get out of that infuriating conversation was that they promised me that I would be given the position of cameraman throughout this whole mess. And in return, I would do most of the editing, which was basically an inevitability given that I was the only one in the group who had any idea how to use iMovie. Like, at all. But that was okay. I was fine doing all of the storyboarding, recording, and even the editing by myself, as long as it meant I didn't have to act. You see, at that time in my life, I was not doing the greatest. And it didn't really become clear to me just how badly I was actually doing until I was able to look back at it with the power of hindsight. Because at that time, the cloud of depression that had basically followed me everywhere I went ever since I turned the age of 12 had grown into a giant Category 5 hurricane. And as you can probably guess, I needed a way to distract myself from the constant misery that I was currently experiencing. So, what coping mechanism did I decide to implement into my everyday life? Well, an eating disorder, of course. And more specifically, bulimia. Basic white girl problems, am I right? Don't worry, guys. I'm doing a lot better nowadays than I was back then. Mainly because I'm on antidepressants now, and take sleeping pills so strong that they could easily put a small elephant into a coma. And under normal circumstances, I would give you guys some examples of my behavior during this time, just to truly illustrate to you how badly I was doing. But because I know that some of you guys out there are doing just as terribly as I used to, I'm not gonna. Because most of the screwed up things I used to do involved tactics meant to hide my eating disorder from my family, which I don't want to teach you how to do. Because the longer this shit goes on for, the harder it's gonna be to stop. So instead of telling you about that, I'm gonna share some side effects that I experienced during this time that made my life just that much harder. I can talk about the heartburn, the slow erosion of my teeth, how after training myself to vomit every day for 2 years straight, I would start to vomit involuntarily if I accidentally started walking too fast, the bloody constipation that slowly turned into hemorrhoids, how my period became extremely irregular and still is, how I would start to forget things that were really important, like forgetting to order my graduation cap until the very last minute when everyone else already had theirs, how I would become extremely confused and disoriented really quickly, which would make me cry, and the 2 symptoms most important to this story. Symptom number 1, the extreme emotional and physical exhaustion that I felt constantly. Yeah, the thing about vomiting after you eat every day has a tendency to make you just a little bit more tired than normal, if you can put it like that. Also, it makes things like walking and just moving in general pretty painful, which, when you have to pretend to fight off an insane serial killer late in the evening, after the sun has gone down, after you've already been in school for the last 9 hours, and still have to do homework afterwards when you get home, it might not make it for the best filming experience, to say it nicely. And symptom number 2. I was very insecure about how I looked. And yes, a lot of it was because I felt fat. And I felt like the other 2 girls looked a lot prettier than me. But some of it was also because, in real life, I have very prominent, very large front teeth that basically dominate my entire face, which, even after 6 years of wearing braces, still stick out like a sore thumb. And you would think that this would make me look like a cute cartoon bunny rabbit, but in reality, it made me look a lot more like a beaver. So you can imagine that being on camera is something I really didn't want to do. And in order to avoid this disastrous outcome, I basically agreed to do literally everything else, as long as I didn't have to be on camera. That was the deal. But then again, God doesn't seem to like me very much for some reason, and basically decided to shit all over my lovely white carpet, and then smear it all over the wall. Because on the first day of shooting, when we had to record the conversation where the serial killer dares the college girls camp in the woods, which luckily we were able to record during normal school hours, thank God, things slowly started to fall apart. It started with me setting up the camera to get a long introduction panorama shot of the classroom, having the camera slowly move towards the door as the serial killer walks in. This was the only shot that I was able to record for the movie. Because once I started recording the scene where the two girls get approached by Shinji, the girls started manically giggling to themselves for some reason. What's so funny?
Oh, nothing.
Okay, let's try this again then. And action. Are you guys okay? Is something wrong?
Oh, no. We're good. We're totally good.
Okay, can you guys please stop giggling like that and, actually say your lines? Otherwise, we're never gonna finish this project. Okay? Okay, let's try this again. And action. Okay, can you please stop doing that? I would actually like to finish shooting this scene before I have to get on the 45-minute train ride back to my hometown, which will be leaving the station in roughly an hour and a half. So please, can you two stop giggling like a couple of middle schoolers every goddamn time I turn on this camera? If you could do that for me, that would be swell. Thanks. Ugh, I swear to God, if these two chicken heads start giggling again, I'm gonna...
Okay, this is clearly not working. See, switch places with Ray.
Wait, what? No! You said I could be the cameraman! I don't want to act. I don't want to be on camera. And I know for a damn fact that none of you pigeon brains are gonna do a damn thing to help me with the editing of this film, given that we've already established that I'm the only one here who knows how to use iMovie.
Look, you and I both have shit we need to do today, and it doesn't look like Tweedledee and Tweedledummer over here are gonna stop their involuntary little giggle fest long enough for any of us to actually get the footage that we need for this project. So either you switch places with Ray so that we can actually get a move on today, or we all get an F for this film by not submitting anything at all. Your choice.
Ugh, fine. But if my acting is bad, I'm gonna blame all of you. And oh boy, was my acting bad. You could tell just how uncomfortable I was in every single scene of this train wreck. With my exaggerated body language, unnatural speaking voice, and that pitiful look in my eye that basically did everything but scream, "I really don't want to do this right now!" But now we were at the very least able to get those stupid damn lines. However, the hard part was still yet to come, because we still had to film the rest of this thing, which takes place in a forest at night. Genius planning there, guys. Appreciate ya. Thankfully, God decided to give me a freebie after all of that nonsense he just pulled, and we luckily remembered that there was a small park right behind the school campus with grass, trees, bushes, and all that kind of gross nature stuff. It even had a little duck pond that we sadly didn't get to use. Meh. This thankfully meant that we didn't have to make our way into a dark, cold, and wet forest in the middle of the night, all by ourselves. Oh, and just for context, this project was assigned to us in the middle of November, and was due mid-December. So we were in the middle of winter, which meant two things. One, it meant that it started getting dark around 5 p.m., meaning we wouldn't need to do this crap at like 1 in the morning like I had originally feared. Thank God. And two, It was cold as balls outside, and it would rain at least every other day, and sometimes it would even snow a little bit. And because of this, I was desperately hoping that we wouldn't have to record all this mess, while God decided to take his evening piss in the dark. But then I realized that we had another problem. The girls in this movie are supposed to go camping in the woods, which means we need a tent. And finally, Asuka decided to actually be useful for once, and decided to bring a tent she had lying in the back of her closet as a prop. Thank you, Asuka! The one thing you did throughout this whole process that didn't make me want to carve your eyeballs out. And for that, I'm gonna remove 5 bitch points from your inventory, just as a thank you. Anyway, we decided to meet up one day after school. Maybe on a Tuesday, I think, I'm not sure. And just try to get this thing over with, hopefully during an evening where it wouldn't rain. So, after school was over, I decided to stick around campus and wait until the sun had finally decided to go to bed for the day. Given that we had agreed to meet up at like 5 p.m, because we knew that the sun took early days off during the winter. And given that class normally ended at around 3:30, all I'd have to do was keep myself entertained for a good hour and a half. What you say? Why didn't I just go home and wait in my nice, warm, soft, comfy bed? Well, because I lived in another city at the time, and I would take the train every morning from my hometown down to the larger town that my college just so happened to be in, and then take a good 8-minute bus ride from the station to campus, which equals about a good 50 minutes of travel time just to get to campus, and another 50 to get back home, plus the 20 minutes to get from the station to my house once I arrived back in town, making it a daily commute of at least 2 hours. And honestly, I was just better off waiting until sundown to finally get this piece of absolute bull honky over with. And once the sun had finally decided to clock out for the day, we could get started on this nonsense. First, we started with setting up the tent, which, given that it was pitch black outside, took a lot longer than we originally intended. A good 40 minutes, actually. 40 minutes of 4 stupid, tired, and frustrated college students trying their damnedest to pitch a tent in a small park at 5:30 p.m. during a cold, dark, and somehow wet December evening. I can only imagine what that must have looked like to the poor random people walking their dogs in that park.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Anyway, when the tent was finally up and ready to go, we could finally start filming. And because we were all just 100% done with anything and everything involving this project, we literally only did 1 take of each shot. Yes, really. That's how done we were with this whole thing. Because it was cold, dark, somehow wet even though it wasn't raining yet, and all of us just wanted to go home so we could finally eat our dinner in peace. However, the tent we had to be in for the scene was small. Like, really small. So having 2 people in it was already a stretch. But now we needed to fit dear old Ray in there as well, which basically turned into the most uncomfortable game of Tetris that I have ever played in my life. And not only was this uncomfortable, but it also made most of the footage from that scene almost completely unusable. However, Ray didn't seem to notice this. Or, let's just be real here, she most likely just didn't care. Because I didn't find out about this until later, when I had already started editing. But whatever, we got it done, we had the footage, now we could finally go home and actually rest for the day. Except it was like 6:30 p.m, and all the buses in this area had stopped running for the day. Which meant I had to walk back to the station on foot, which was gonna take at least another 20 minutes. Just so that I could get on the 40-minute train ride back home. Shut up.
An hour and 15 minutes later.
Oh, hi, honey. Your dinner's in the oven if you want it. you're home pretty late today. How was school? 2 days later, when we once again meet up for media class, I took all of the footage we had recorded on that shitty little handheld video camera that the school gave us and transferred it directly to my MacBook Pro. And then I noticed something that made my heart stop. Ray apparently doesn't know all that much about filmmaking or shot composition, despite the fact that she has been taking media class lessons at least twice a week for the last 6 months. Because when I looked at the footage, I quickly noticed that the rule of thirds, the rule in filmmaking that ensures that the thing that you're asking the viewer to pay attention to remains within these general lines. Because that's where the attention of the audience usually falls when looking at an image. Which Ray somehow completely forgot all about that. We also didn't have any establishing shots of the tent or the park, which meant I couldn't use establishing shots to help create a sense of atmosphere. The dialogue scenes didn't have any focus at all, so whenever the characters had to spit out exposition, we didn't do that thing where when two characters talk to each other, you swap between two different over-the-shoulder shots so that the audience has an easier time keeping track of who's talking. And of course, as I had predicted, the tent scene was bad, but I was not prepared for just how bad it really was. You see, Ray, for some reason, during the scene where the girls freak out because they hear footsteps in the middle of the woods at night, didn't tell us that she was having trouble balancing the camera in such a small space. Meaning, it looked like something out of the Blair Witch Project. Except the tent was in a life raft in the middle of the ocean.
Hey, you okay, dude?
Yeah, man. I'm doing great. No problem, bro.
While I come up with brilliant plans, you guys just goof around like dum-dums. Because you're dumb. Dumb. Dummy-dums.
I was fucking livid. Not at them, but at myself, for having any faith in humanity in the first place. Because apparently, this is what it gets you in real life. And I had to learn it the hard way. Because now I had to figure out how to edit this garbage footage together in such a way that I could actually show this to the entire class by the end of the week, without having to enter into the witness protection program afterwards. Funnily enough, the only halfway decent shot that we had for this film was the panorama shot that I filmed. Granted, maybe I'm just a narcissistic, self-absorbed prick, but personally, the stark contrast between these two styles of camera work was really noticeable. So much so, in fact, that I wasn't even sure if I could use my own footage in the film. But I was just so beyond done at that point that I just decided to use it anyway, just so that we wouldn't have to record again. And I spent the next week and a half working as hard as I could, trying to make something salvageable out of this pile of spoiled dog food that I was forced to work with. And during this entire process, I was legitimately considering scrapping everything we had recorded and just make a badly drawn cartoon, just because I knew that this film was definitely going to be one ginormous waste of everyone's time, especially for the people who are gonna have to watch it afterwards. The only reason why I didn't do that was essentially because, even though I'd like to believe that I am indeed the hottest piece of shit that has ever and will ever live on this planet, I also had to be real with myself and face the fact that there was no way in the eternally burning fires of hell that I could ever meet our deadline, which was basically just 1 week away. So I didn't do it, thankfully, but I was thinking about it the entire time, while angrily cursing these 3 idiots for trapping me in this hellish nightmare. Then I finally came to the ending credits. Can you guess what I decided to do? That's right! I pulled a Jaden Animations. and wrote my name everywhere in the ending credits, to be as passive-aggressive as humanly possible. And somehow no one noticed. At least not until we had to present the film in front of the whole class, right before we went off on Christmas holiday. Ha! Take that, suckers! And the film was awful, by the way. There was no way for me to salvage this mess, no matter how many fancy editing tricks I tried to pull out of my sleeve. And obviously, the teacher didn't really have much to say afterwards, given that it seemed like no one involved in this project had any idea what they were doing. The only thing she had to say about it at all was
That the editing was really good.
what?
I said the editing was really good. Really good. Really good. Really good.
Yeah! Ah, that felt so good. It almost made this hellish nightmare worth it. Almost. Only almost. Because with that statement alone, I knew for a fact that if I had been allowed to do this project by myself like I wanted, I could have actually made something halfway decent, that the teacher might actually have been able to say something about. But no! Instead, I was forced to make this garbage, and make something so pathetically bad that even the teacher didn't feel like wasting her breath commenting on it at all. Thanks, guys! Appreciate y'all so much! Couldn't have done it without ya! Ugh. Group projects suck. That's the conclusion. Bye.